The courtroom was silent. Every eye was fixed on the judge as he glared down at the quiet teenager standing before him. The boy, Ethan Walker, had barely spoken a word since stepping inside. Hands stuffed in his pockets, his messy brown hair partially covering his face, his expression unreadable. He wasn't nervous. He wasn't scared. He was just there. Judge Morton, a man infamous for his sharp tongue and lack of patience, scoffed. Leaning forward, he peered down at Ethan like he was looking at something pathetic. Well, the judge drawled, his voice dripping with sarcasm. What do we have here? A young man too afraid to speak? Or maybe you just don't even understand what's happening. Laughter erupted from the audience, but Ethan didn't flinch. The judge smirked. Let me guess, you're one of those kids who think they're smarter than everyone else, huh? He leaned back, shaking his head. Kids like you end up nowhere. You're wasting everyone's time. Do you even have a brain in that head of yours, or is it just empty space? A few chuckles rippled through the room. But then, Ethan did something no one expected. Slowly, he lifted his head, locking eyes with Judge Morton. And then he spoke.
His voice was calm.
Steady. But his words made the entire courtroom fall silent. Actually, Your Honor, Ethan said, if you're done mocking me, I'd like to correct the mistake in your ruling before an innocent man goes to prison. Judge Morton's face paled. Gasps filled the room. Lawyers at the table snapped their heads toward Ethan so fast it was a wonder their necks didn't break. And that was the moment everyone realized Ethan Walker wasn't just some quiet teenager. He was a genius. 3 weeks earlier, Ethan had been sitting in the back of his classroom at Roosevelt High School, scribbling in his notebook. Around him, students laughed, whispered, and passed notes. He barely noticed. Fitting in? That was never his thing. Not because he didn't want friends, but because every time he opened his mouth, people either got bored or confused. So he stopped trying. Instead, he buried himself in books on quantum physics, solved logic puzzles, and, when he was bored, hacked into random systems. Not for anything illegal, just to see if he could. But home? That was a different kind of challenge. His mother, Lisa Walker, worked 2 jobs just to keep a roof over their heads. His father,
gone,
walked out years ago, leaving behind nothing but unpaid bills and broken promises. Ethan wanted to help, but what could a 16-year-old kid do? Then, one night, everything changed. Scrolling through legal case files, something he did for fun, Ethan stumbled upon a court case that made his stomach twist. A man named Daniel Grayson was being charged with a crime he didn't commit. Ethan didn't know him, but the evidence was flawed. The prosecutors had missed something. A mistake so tiny, yet so critical that it could mean the difference between freedom and life in prison. Ethan stayed up all night digging deeper, analyzing documents, checking timestamps, even accessing court files that weren't meant to be public. By morning, he had proof. But there was a problem. Who would listen to a 16-year-old nobody? For days, he tried contacting lawyers, reporters, anyone willing to hear him out. But they ignored him, until one desperate call changed everything. Lisa Walker, exhausted from work, barely had the energy to argue when Ethan insisted they go to the courthouse. This is insane, Ethan, she sighed, rubbing her temples. You're not a lawyer. You're a kid. But I'm right, Ethan said. Mom, I can prove it. Against her better judgment, she took him. And that's how Ethan ended up in Judge Morton's courtroom, where a man's fate hung in the balance, and a boy no one took seriously was about to change everything. But just as Ethan was about to reveal what he had found,
bam!
The courtroom doors burst open. 2 officers rushed inside, hands on their guns. Step away from the bench. Now, one of them barked. Ethan froze. His mother gasped. The judge's face went from pale to furious. What is the meaning of this? One of the officers pointed straight at Ethan. This kid hacked into the court's database. We have reason to believe he's been accessing classified information illegally. Gasps spread through the courtroom. Ethan's heart pounded. This wasn't supposed to happen. He wasn't the one who should be in trouble. He was trying to fix a mistake, not commit one.
But now?
Instead of proving Daniel Grayson's innocence, Ethan Walker was about to be arrested.